This is Training Insights, episode 26. Well, hello and greetings from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. This is Training Insights. My name's Kevin McGowan. The show, of course, is brought to you by Training Magazine. You can go to trainingmag.com. Now, today, I'm going to be speaking with Ryan Malone. He is the head of SmartBug Media, a very cool little company. I wanted to talk to Ryan specifically about one issue. His whole company is remote. Everybody works remotely from their home office all across the United States. And I found that really interesting. There's not a lot of companies that have that set up, and I wanted to talk to him about how he managed to do it, how he maintains that, how he keeps the team working together as a team and not all feeling that they're off in their own little worlds. And also to talk about the concerns that some organizations have and some leadership have about people working remotely. A lot of people still have concerns about that, even here in the 21st century. So we're going to talk about that as well. So without any further ado, as I normally say, here's my chat with Ryan Malone of SmartBug Media.
And Ryan Malone, welcome to Training Insights.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to meet you virtually over the interwebs. Where are you actually physically located?
I am in Orange County, California, in a city called Irvine.
Irvine, California. Okay, familiar. I haven't been there. I'm up in where it's still kind of chilly in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. So greetings from the snow belt.
Very chilly still.
Again, thanks so much for taking some time today. I wanted to learn a bit about your organization, of course, really to start off, because it sounds pretty interesting in itself, but also in terms of your take on learning and development within the organization. So I'm wondering, Ryan, if I could ask you first about SmartBug Media and just give me your 30-second sales pitch on what your organization does.
Yeah, sure. So we are a 40-person, 100% remote digital agency. We have 40 people, like I mentioned, in about 17 states. We practice what's called intelligent inbound, and we focus on companies that are looking for ways to grow their revenue and the integration between their sales and marketing systems.
Oh, that's a great summary. And an interesting thing about the company is that, as from what I understand, you're all quote unquote remote employees.
We are, yeah. The short story is when I started the company, I had a really dear friend who was sent on a business trip to deliver an award to a client, and he missed his nephew's birthday party. And we were formulating the company, and we just decided that I never wanted to be the person who wasn't in the office and was that kind of leader. And at the same time, I also didn't want to be the person that missed my kids' critical events, because you only get to live once. So we decided to make it remote and really embrace the fact that people should be able to create memories in their life and also have a really challenging career.
Well, I mean, that's a super healthy perspective. I think we've all probably worked in places that maybe went a little far to the other end of the spectrum, as you're describing with the birthday party.
Yeah.
What kind of challenges are you finding with that organization, and what other benefits, I guess, are you finding with that kind of setup with your organization?
Oh, that's a great question. It's interesting. If you look at some of the successes that we've had, I think it's really given us a competitive advantage. We feel like because we don't have to recruit within the 10 minutes or 20 minutes from our office, that we have a better talent pool. And I feel like the success of our company kind of proves that we've been able to find really, really smart people, because we can source things nationally rather than just locally. At the same time, the agency world and a lot of different companies are kind of fraught with this. Everybody's in a cubicle, and the big boss man's looking out the window of his office to make sure everybody's there at 5:00. And that doesn't really serve a really good quality of life, because you don't have the flexibility to do things like volunteer in your kid's school or go to a doctor's appointment or, spend some time with a sick grandma. And so at the end of the day, life's about memories, and you and I probably aren't going to remember this phone call when we're 70, but you're going to remember what you do with your family, or either last weekend or this week. And so we feel like one of the successes is we can provide a much better quality of life to our team, which results in lower churn. People stay because they're challenged and because they have a lifestyle that they're not able to easily get elsewhere. And so it ends up being a win-win for both of us. I guess kind of the last big success is that from a communication perspective, you really learn how to communicate as a company if you're not able to walk down the office and talk to somebody. So you could do a Zoom call or a phone call or whatever, but it really forces you to be succinct and clear and ask for what you need and make sure that handoffs between things are done really, really well.
Yeah. I know one of the challenges with kind of a mixed environment, I mean, certainly where my day job, we've got people in headquarters, lots and lots of our staff are elsewhere, distributed around the world. The challenge is often those hallway conversations, those spontaneous conversations
Mm-hmm.
that just happen. And not everybody necessarily is going to be in the loop on that. That's just the nature of the, the office design or the organizational design. But in your case, that's just not there. It's just not an issue.
Yeah. So the analogy we use is that, that 10 minutes before a conference call when everybody's in the office meeting room, but the person who's remote isn't, and all they can hear is like some background noise, like they're at a train station.
Yeah.
And that's where the relationships are built. And so we don't have any of those issues. We now, on the other hand, right, there are some challenges that we do have, right? So you have to have a totally different hiring profile and process. It takes a different type of person. If you're the kind of person who comes in on a Monday and your entire social life is kind of wrapped around the people at work, it doesn't necessarily work well for remote. We find that people who have lots of non-work friends and non-work social networks and things like that, and work is an important part of their life, but it's not the defining part of their life, tend to work far better in a remote environment. You don't, in that hiring process, you don't have local references. If you were hiring people in a local environment, chances are you could probably network your way to a reference check.
Yeah.
So you don't have that. And so you have to put in some systems that I think are a little bit different. And then you have to do a whole bunch of behind the scenes due diligence, from social media checking to other types of homework on people, because you are talking to what's effectively a face on a video rather than somebody that you get to meet in person all the time. And so if you figure it out, it's fine. But I think for people that are kind of looking for either a remote position or looking to hire remote people, you should plan accordingly for those types of things.
Yeah. I just want to go back to one point you raised earlier, the whole notion of that boss who's looking out at 5 o'clock to make sure everybody's there.
Mm-hmm.
That's certainly, it's such an overused term. That's certainly an old school, quote unquote, kind of perspective on management, certainly. It's still pretty prevalent though. I see that in a lot of friends' organizations and places I've worked in the last decade or so. Why is that still a common practice? Why hasn't that not kind of evolved more in this new communications world we live in?
I think, if you're the guilty manager of that, right, it's sometimes, I think for some people, it's really hard just to let go and assume that the people are responsible and doing the stuff that you hired them to do, which is so backwards, right? Because if you're going to hire somebody and you're going to trust them to do whatever it is that you've hired them to do at your company, you should have made that decision that you trust them before.
Well, exactly, yeah.
And not have to do it. And I think at the same time, on the employee side, I kind of analogy I like to use is, if you're on the highway and a policeman is in front of you on the highway, nobody wants to pass him. Even if he's going below the speed limit, nobody wants to be the first person. And it's sort of the same, right? If you're kind of stuck in this, central place where everybody's, looking at each other, nobody wants to be the first to leave. And it's sort of sad, because that might be the most productive person, or they might be going home to do something at home. And so I think just the fear from the manager and the fear from the employee kind of work together. And it's really hard to break unless companies work really hard to deliberately break it.
Interesting. So to pivot a little bit, let's go towards the topic of learning and development, because obviously you've got a very dispersed team. Training and developing that team is going to be a challenge unto itself, because it's not like you can get everybody into a room for a seminar or something like that. So how do you manage to leverage that remoteness and also make sure everybody is up to speed on the latest and greatest and whatever it is they need to learn?
Sure. We try to put it into our training programs into 3 buckets. There's kind of your self bucket, which is you kind of know where you need to take your career, working with your manager to understand where there might be some gaps that might be hindering you moving to wherever you need to move in the organization, is the first bucket. The second bucket is kind of a peer thing. So there's, a lifeline when you need that. And then the third bucket is sort of company driven, based on the skill set that we need to have the company go. And so the fundamental thing is that from a hiring perspective, you need to hire people who are continuous learners. They're the people who, rather than asking how to do something, probably go look first and then ask for help. They're the people that like to share a little bit about what they've learned and are kind of proud of the tricks that they've figured out.
Yeah.
So assuming you have that foundation, the first thing we do is when we do account reviews with clients, they're an all hands meeting. And as you sit back and listen, right, people are asking for help from their peers, and oftentimes their peers have addressed something that they're struggling with. So there's this sort of kind of organism that helps each other at the baseline of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
The second piece is that we have 2 programs that are designed to have more institutional development. So each employee works with their manager on a development program. We don't use kind of the old school annual reviews where, somebody says, how do you rate on communication? Oh, I rate myself a 4, and then your manager rates yourself a 3, and then you go battle to try to get your score raised up. We don't believe that those are super effective.
Yeah.
So we do a development plan that basically says, look, here's where we want you to go in the organization, and here's where you want to go in the organization, and what are the things that you need to, the skills that you need to be able to learn in order to do that. So we have what's called a tiered training program. It's got 3 tiers. And each tier is designed so that you unlock a greater budget for your training based on your finishing the prior tier. And what we're trying to do is to incentivize this idea that the more that you take ownership of your development, the more budget that's there waiting for you. And so what people do is they end up working with their managers. They get their basic kind of competencies down. That unlocks the first tier. They finish the first tier and generate some more competencies, and then they continue up that chain, and they can eventually unlock a pretty substantial amount of money for training. And we like that because then it's really easy to understand who the people who are taking ownership in that. The second thing that we do is all that stuff is great if you have time to do it. So we have what's called a certification day. So once a quarter, we shut down the company for a day, and the whole goal is that you get to spend 8 hours of uninterrupted time on whatever training that you feel like is necessary. That's in addition to the stuff that they would do in their tiered training program. And so those 2 things we think are a really good way for the employee and the manager to get alignment on where they need to go. And then from a company perspective, we have a concept called a marketing lab, which is a once a month all hands meeting that is kind of a structured training that is either something done internally by somebody who's learned something and wants to share it with the team, or it's an external speaker. It's usually an hour, and it's designed to really kind of dig deep into a specific topic so that people can increase their skills in a particular area. We do these brief little bi-monthly all hands that are kind of designed around, what's happening at the company, any process updates, but those take so little time. We use the rest of the time to do some informal training. And then our kind of big leadership and development conference is an event that we call Smart Bugapalooza. It's fun.
Nice. We Gen Xers appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly right. I've been to many of them when they stopped. And so it's 3 days of fun and a day of development. And the idea is that, you come out and you're going to spend a day learning some really great stuff, and then you're going to bring your family with you, and everybody's going to hang out like we're one big family. And we feel like that is a good way to cement all of the learning that you've done over the course of the year, and also to inspire people to continue to kind of follow the training and development plans that we have in place.
Wow. I'm flabbergasted. There's so much there I want to be able to ask you about. The 1 day kind of per quarter thing, which I think is a particularly simple yet ingenious kind of idea. Just, there's no way around it, right? You can say, look, I'm too busy to take, this seminar this week or to research this week because I got my other priorities. But if you're literally shutting the company down, saying, no, this is your professional development day, that's huge for the employees, and also I'm assuming you're finding the returns on that pretty positive.
Yeah, and so we work with a number of software packages in our daily life, and so it allows for people that aren't completely up on their certifications, it allows them to go do that. For people that are up on them and they want to focus on some other types of learning, it allows them to do that type of stuff. And so by doing that, by just basically shutting the company down, there's really no reason why somebody should have a distraction. It's not to mean that somebody needs to sneak out for a quick 20-minute phone call, but
Sure.
we tell people a quarter ahead of time. They tell our clients, they put their autoresponders on. And so it's no different if you're at an offsite than you happen to be in the office or in your pajamas with slippers on, but you're really focusing on your own development. And it's really fun because on Zoom, we have, 35, 40 people with their pictures up sometimes, and people are instant messaging each other about the stuff that they've completed. And there's this really positive momentum as people are knocking down training courses and learning new things and posting things that they've figured out. And it's just really cool.
That is really cool. What do you think is the next step? I mean, it sounds like a pretty good package that you've got working for you. Is there something you're thinking of adding in addition? Or a new evolution or anything like that?
I don't know. I think really what we want to see is greater adoption for the tiered training program that we have. I think, I think really what the next step is for us is to try to be a little bit more proactive in putting together the types of options that somebody might have for the track or for the focus that they want to learn about. Right now, they work with their manager to identify some of those opportunities, which if they don't understand where to look or if they don't have time to look, sometimes that can make it more challenging. And so I think one of the things that we need to do is to spend some time and figure out what the 5 or 6 options are on topic X.
Right.
So they have kind of a library of things to choose from.
Okay, cool. Well, look, Ryan, we're just about out of time, but where can people find you and SmartBug Media? Let's do a plug for the website.
Oh, thanks. Just www.smartbug, like a fly, media.com, or you can email me at ryan@smartbugmedia.com.
Perfect. Ryan Malone, thanks so much for taking the time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much, Ryan Malone. I found that fascinating. And I want to thank, too, Doreen Clark, who's their Director of PR over at SmartBug Media. She helped set this whole conversation up. So thanks, Doreen, and thank you very much, Ryan. And thanks to you for listening. If you'd like to know more about SmartBug, you can go to smartbugmedia.com. That's smartbugmedia.com, just as it sounds. And if you want to get in touch with me, please do. Go to kevinmcgowan.ca. You can drop me a line there. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.